So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about Darth Maul. I rewatched the Clone Wars final arc, the Mandalore arc, season 7, episode 10, Shadow Apprentice, and that episode is so interesting to me. Not only is it just a great episode of Clone Wars, but I feel like we get a lot of insight into Maul and his understanding of Palpatine and just kind of the universe in general right now. And the biggest thing is he talks a lot about kind of Palpatine's plan in this episode. He tells a lot of people about Palpatine in this episode. And I think I want to focus on when he is talking to Jesse and interrogates him, and when he talks to Ahsoka in the throne room. There's a couple little things in this episode that I think are very interesting. For example, when Maul says Darth Sidious, he goes Darth, and then he like breathes in for air, which I find so interesting. It's as if like the weight of Sidious's power has grown in the galaxy, his influence, and Maul's understanding of Sidious's influence has kind of grown, and he's realized Sidious is probably much more powerful than he originally thought, maybe when he was his apprentice. And when Maul says his name in this episode, there's a weight to it, and you can hear that in the way he even just says Darth Sidious. Super interesting. When, Ahsoka is discussing Sidious, Anakin, spying on Sidious in this episode, we hear Palpatine's kind of music playing in the background, like we know this is bad. Right when Ahsoka and Maul are about to start fighting for the first or second time in that episode, when Maul goes to attack Ahsoka, you hear Sidious's scream as he goes to hit her, which I just think is so interesting, kind of revolving around the theme that kind of Maul is realizing Sidious has like everything under his control, and it's all, his plan is being executed as they speak. You feel that Sidious is pushing the chessboard at every moment, and everything that has happened is going according to his plan. None of this is random. It's something that he's at least calculated or, is allowing to happen. Which is interesting because Maul is reflecting in this episode about how he was simply a tool, and how he realizes that Dooku was also a tool. And it kind of makes me, like, hearing him talk about that made me wonder, what was Maul's purpose in Sidious's eyes? Because we know Sidious kind of raised Maul from a very young age, but after the Phantom Menace disposes of him entirely, which makes me think, because Sidious is so meticulous and I don't think anything really happens for an accident, at least not often, I think in Maul's case specifically, I don't think even if he had survived his battle with Obi-Wan in the Phantom Menace, I think Sidious probably would have disposed of him quickly thereafter, because Sidious does follow the rule of two, which is also interesting because thinking about all of Sidious's apprentices, I don't think Sidious ever intended to actually follow the rule of two in the sense where one of his apprentices would kill him. I guess technically that's kind of what happened, but I see it more as like when Darth Vader threw Palpatine into that big trash chute or whatever on the Death Star. That was more Anakin kind of redeeming himself by killing Palpatine. But I think Palpatine is the amalgamation of all of the Sith, finally culminating. He is the one Sith that's going to take over the galaxy. Like, only he, with everyone who has come after him, like, he was never meant to be another cog in the rule of two where another Sith would come along and kill Palpatine and then take over the galaxy. Palpatine is the culmination of the greatest strength of the Sith the galaxy has ever seen. With that being said, it's interesting that right when Maul dies in episode 1, we now know because of Tales of the Jedi that as soon as Maul died, Sidious went and had a powwow with Count Dooku, where Dooku confronted Sidious about killing Qui-Gon Jinn. So it did not take long for Sidious to replace Maul, and I think that's very intentional because Dooku is important to Sidious's plans for the next 15 years after the Phantom Menace. He's the leader of the Separatists. He's going to be a huge part in orchestrating the war against the Republic. So I bet Maul's usefulness and purpose was to ensure that the blockade of Naboo happened, because that's the first key step in making Palpatine Chancellor of the Republic, and killing Qui-Gon Jinn. He was an assassin that basically made sure nothing happened and interfered with the blockade of Naboo, because that is key, and killing Qui-Gon Jinn. I really think that was his ultimate purpose, was killing Qui-Gon Jinn, because if Qui-Gon Jinn survives, Anakin probably doesn't fall to the dark side. He has the father figure he needs, and he has the guidance he needs, where Obi-Wan is just not as capable of kind of taking Anakin and giving him what he needs, which is why they have a strenuous relationship for a while, until really Episode 3 and the Clone Wars. That's why the Duel of the Fates is called the Duel of the Fates. And this is not something I realized. This is stuff Dave Filoni has said, and it just makes sense. If Maul fails in killing Count Dooku, or Qui-Gon Jinn, Anakin probably doesn't fall to the dark side, or he becomes much more difficult to fall to the dark side, because Qui-Gon kind of represents what the Jedi Order should be and what they are not currently. And so yeah, I just think it's interesting how Sidious is so meticulous. He has very specific purposes for all of his apprentices, and when he has them. And I think it's probably a little irritating to Sidious that Maul is still alive, because I bet it was never meant for him to still be around at the time of the Empire, which I think will make it interesting to see him in Maul Shadow Lord. And now that I'm just kind of going on a roll, if Sidious is kind of annoyed with Maul being alive, I think it makes it even more likely that he might send Vader to try and take out Maul in Maul Shadow Lord, because Maul is smart. He has learned from his mistakes. He knows his master. But that's actually another thing I want to get into, Maul knowing his master. So Sidious kind of seduces his apprentices, I think. Well, clearly he's seduced all of them. Maul kind of less so, because he raised him from birth, or not birth, but from a very young age. But he kind of fed Dooku and Maul these lies about like how the Jedi are evil and corrupt and the Republic is failing. But when we take over the galaxy, the Sith shall rule, and we'll have this idealized new universe that that follows justice and, you know, takes care of people in these ways. Like the galaxy will be better when I'm at the top of it. I think Maul definitely did not expect the Empire to be what it was. Again, that's not an idea I came up with. Sam Witwer has said that Maul he had a faint idea of what the Empire was going to look like, and the Empire we get is not it. Dooku also thought that the Empire was going to be this kind of... Dooku fell from the Jedi because he saw the Jedi as corrupt, kind of like Qui-Gon Jinn, and same with the Senate, and he wanted to make the Republic a better place for all people, which I think helps him get seduced by Palpatine in the end. Because as soon as Dooku dies, he realizes he's just been a tool as well, and that he was never going to be a part of this new world order. That's what I was getting to. Palpatine kind of seduces and convinces his apprentices that they need to do and work with him because they're going to be a part of the new world order that he creates. And this is a lie. What else do I got here? Oh yeah, Maul is able to sort of predict Order 66 in this episode, because I think Palpatine does tell his apprentices certain things. Why? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they just become curious and he doesn't really see the harm in telling them, especially if they're going to die eventually anyway. And if they die thinking they're going to be a part of this master plan, well then they're not going to tell anyone about it, like we see with Dooku. Maul, for whatever reason, probably his own greed, doesn't like go to the Jedi and is like, Emperor or Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord, because that would just lead the Jedi to probably killing Sidious or taking him into prison, and that doesn't help Maul become leader or powerful person in the galaxy. Anyway, I am interested to see what Maul is kind of doing in Maul Shadow Lord, because I don't think Sidious really told him the truth about what the Empire was supposed to be. So I think Maul's understanding of Sidious's intentions and desires are not going to be as good in Maul Shadow Lord, because I think the extent of his knowledge kind of ended with just, oh, somehow my master had a plan to eradicate the Jedi and create the Empire, but now we have the Empire, and I don't think Maul will know what Palpatine's goals are as much, which will not allow him to predict certain events as easily as he did, like Order 66 and the downfall of the Jedi. But yeah, I think, I don't know, that was kind of just a big ramble, but a few little Easter eggs I noticed in that episode. Not Easter eggs. Anyway, I thought it was interesting when Maul gets thrown through the glass by Ahsoka. You kind of see the Mandalorian throne in shambles, and I thought it was just kind of interesting that with we're not only kind of about to mourn the downfall of the Republic and the Jedi Order, really it's also kind of the beginning of the end of Mandalore, because the Mandalorians never recover from this point, really. They try, but the Empire just kind of eradicates them after this. So Bo-Katan doesn't even realize it's already kind of over with the downfall of the Jedi too. But anyway, I think that's all I got for now. That was a big ramble. I think I'm just gonna post this. It's just practice for me. I really do want to make those videos about Maul Shadow Lord, so maybe this one will just be a ramble. Maybe next time I kind of tighten it up a little bit. But yeah, let me know what you thought of my ramble. If you are a Star Wars fan and maybe you disagree with anything I am saying, let me know. I don't follow the legend stuff as much, but I think a fun part of doing this would be learning from you guys watching and kind of giving me your opinions on these things too, as I describe you and give you my interpretation. But yeah, I think that's all I got for today. I will see you guys next time.